Welcome to the Universal Joint Podcast. I'm entertainment writer Jim Hill, and my co-host Dustin Fuhs and I are recording this on Saturday night, October 19th, which means we have nothing to do, Dustin. This is such a sad commentary. We could be at a theme park, you know?
We could be doing anything else. No, I'm joking. It's a hockey night in Canada mixed in with the weekend of the election, federal election up here. So I am glad to talk about theme parks.
Okay, cool. Tell you what, let's at least have a slight little self-congratulatory moment here, because back in February this year, you and I were talking about how Universal Creative was looking for something to do with the T2 3D Battle Across Time show building, which is located on Hollywood Boulevard in Universal Studios, Florida. And it was on our February 12th show, Dustin. We shared that one of the ideas that Universal Creative was seriously considering was a Jason Bourne-themed experience, which, given that NBC Universal has really been pressuring the Universal Parks to make even more use of the company's intellectual property, just made sense. I mean, that's how, for example, the Beverly Hills Boulangerie. There we go. But anyway, it was operated at Universal Studios Florida for 30 years under that name. But that wound up, it got turned into the Today Show Cafe back in May. Hey, that rhymes. It's all about synergy, folks. So it was actually kind of nice after sort of putting that out there to have the PR department at Universal Orlando Resort confirm that what we put out 8 months ago was right. Here's what they released to the press on Tuesday, October 15th. The Bourne Stuntacular, an all-new cutting-edge live-action stunt show, will debut at Universal Studios Florida in the spring of 2020. Based on Universal Pictures' blockbuster Bourne film franchise, the Bourne Stuntacular will blur the lines between stage and cinema in a hybrid form of entertainment that has never been seen before, which tells me whoever wrote this press release hadn't ever been to T2 3D Battle Across Time.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like it was someone who had been hired in the 2 years since T2 3D had closed.
Because face it, I mean, when that show opened in April of 1996, I mean, all people could talk about was how this 26-minute-long theater-based experience blended live performers, practical effects, a 3D movie, which at one point is being shown on 3 50-foot wide screens that sort of encompass the entire audience, and in theater pyro to deliver a kind of a mini sequel to James Cameron's July 1991 smash hit Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Did you ever get to see that?
Oh yeah, it's one of those classic movies that you almost just have to sit and watch. There's we're looking in that 91 through until 99. There's so many great action movies that came out. So obviously that was on the shelf.
The brand new Terminator movie that's coming out in theaters in less than 2 weeks, that's actually a direct sequel to Terminator 2 Judgment Day and T2 3D Battle Across Time. Evidently, Cameron himself produced this thing. More importantly, he persuaded Linda Hamilton to come back to play Sarah Connor, and Arnold Schwarzenegger is back as the Terminator again. This thing's called Terminator Dark Fate, and it deliberately overlooks every single other Terminator movie. The only ones that matter are Judgment Day and T2 3D Battle Across Time, which was actually shot in May of 1995. In fact, the 12-minute-long 3D movie portion of this attraction was shot in a deserted steel mill in Desert Center, California, and Cameron himself shot the very first part of this film. Given that it was shot at night, because it has to have that authentic post-apocalyptic feel, I mean, he was really invested in this project.
So basically, we're forgetting Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines, Terminator Salvation, Terminator Genesis. Okay, that sounds about right.
It's a separate timeline, and we will not speak of that. Anyway, getting back to the Bourne Stuntacular, did you see where Universal PR accidentally sent this off to a couple of outlets on Monday, out ahead of the official release on Tuesday, and then had to ask really nice, could you not run that story? Could you kind of sit on that for 24 hours, which in today's instant information sharing, it's kind of hard to put that genie back in the bottle.
Yeah, I heard that they published it on social media. And it was a mistake, which is similar to what happened back in 2008 with the Monsters, Inc. situation that went into on the hub. It was up there for 8 hours.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden people were like, oh no, this is not supposed to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I heard that's what happened with this. And there are a number of outlets that responded, sure, absolutely, you guys, as long as it's going out today, that's fine. But I know a bunch of news outlets that got him was just like, well, you put it out there yourself. So why would we take it back if you're going to put it out later? We're in a news cycle where if you don't have the first, you don't have it.
No, that's it exactly. And again, I'm not going to say we were first to break this news, but we did have it 8 months ago. But according to last week's press release, the Bourne Stuntacular will be opening at Universal Studios Florida sometime in the spring of 2020.
But that takes you out of the rumors that they were somehow going to have it open by the end of the year.
At the same time, though, what's kind of intriguing is the marquee went up, I think, the very next morning after the announcement. If we go by the traditional definition of spring, which means it ends July 21st when summer begins. So there's basically 8 months now till this attraction is supposed to be open. But there's no information about who's going to be playing Jason Bourne in the 3D film portion of this attraction, which, again, according to the official press release, is supposed to include footage that's projected on this immense LED screen, making it possible to discern between where the live action ends and the cinema begins, which, again, tells me whoever wrote this press release didn't go to T2 3D because, the motorcycle comes out and they drive around and they go back through the screen. I mean, it's just... same gag, better technology. So who now is going to play Jason Bourne for this attraction? And you have to assume it's going to be Matt Damon. I mean, he's played this character in 4 of the 5 films that make up this Universal Pictures franchise. But just this week, over on the USA Network, Treadstone, which is the television spin-off of the Bourne film series, debuted. And while he was out doing publicity for this new television series, Ben Smith, who has produced the Bourne film series for Universal Pictures, as well as the Treadstone series for the USA Network, was quoted as saying, "We are definitely working on another film. What are we doing within that? Will there be connective tissue between Treadstone and the next Bourne film, with all the characters existing in the same world and universe? Absolutely." So it's like, okay, that's cool, but that's all Ben Smith said. Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay, so how does Treadstone and this Universal's next Bourne movie link up? Or for that matter, how does this TV show and Universal Pictures allegedly already in development Bourne feature film then connect with the Bourne Stuntacular? We may catch a break, though, because Disney is about to release through 21st Century Fox this film called Ford versus Ferrari.
Okay.
And Matt Damon is actually starring in that film, and Christian Bale. That doesn't hit theaters till the 15th of November. So Matt's out doing PR now, and hopefully some enterprising reporter during the junket, or, as he's making the rounds at the daytime talk shows, or Kimmel, or Fallon, or that sort of thing, someone will ask him, get him on the record, or is he going to play Jason Bourne again? And more to the point, what's the deal with this theme park attraction? The Bourne Stuntacular logo and signage went up on the marquee of Universal Studios' old T2 3D Battlecross timeshare building earlier this week. So supposedly people who are in the Universal AP Lounge will have a wonderful view of this, right?
Oh, absolutely. And funny news about that, It looks like the AP perks are going to be extended through until 2020. Mm-hmm. And so that's something that we've been following for a while, how there's the AP Lounge, which is sponsored by Coca-Cola, how it's a great place to just kind of get away. They've got all their Coca-Cola beverages and all their the Arctic Coke cooler, which crystallizes all the beverages in a matter of seconds. But the other thing that was very interesting in the news release that came out regarding the annual pass holders perks is that they're now going to be able to have a separate line at the entrance. So it looks like they'll be taking the queue, I guess, from get it queue because it's a
Wah,
line.
wah. Okay.
They're going to be taking their cue from Disney because Disney at most of their theme parks has a separate entrance for annual pass holders. So it looks like they're going to be doing that at both Islands of Adventure and Universal Studios Florida.
Cool. Okay. Well, another the reason to spring for that AP, folks. Anyway, getting back to Matt Damon, what he said in March of 2017. In fact, this was an interview in the Toronto Sun. He basically said to the reporter there, maybe audiences are done with this character. And so I'm genuinely intrigued to hear what he's going to have to say about this new Bourne movie that Ben Smith says it is already in development, not to mention the Bourne Stuntacular. And while we're talking about Universal Pictures releases, I think it was on the last show, our last Universal joint, Dustin, we talked about how Sam Neill, Laura Dern, B.D. Wong, and Jeff Goldblum, who are all alums of the Jurassic Park film series, are now slated to reprise their roles for Jurassic World 3, which is now supposed to begin shooting in February. According to news that broke in the past week, the cast roster for this Colin Trevorrow movie was further filled out when Mahmoud Athi from Sorry for Your Loss and DeWanda Wise from Netflix She's Gotta Have It series were signed to play leading roles in the third film of the Jurassic World series. So which roles do Athi and Weiss play? Universal Pictures is keeping the script for Jurassic World 3 under tight lock and key. But what folks associated with this Frank Marshall production have told me is that in Jurassic World 3, Mahmoud and DeWanda will supposedly be playing a couple that, surprised, face some challenges with giant reptiles chasing them around. But anyway, we'll learn more about what they do in the film come June 2021.
But that sounds very similar to what people have been saying, is that this could possibly be like the swan song. This is the end, because they're bringing all of these characters back to maybe, and I don't foresee Universal stopping Jurassic World after 3. I could definitely see them moving Jurassic World into another trilogy, maybe focusing on these two characters. But I'm always worried as soon as they start making the last movie be, we're bringing Sam Neill back, Laura Dern, B.D. Wong, Jeff Goldblum, the kids are coming back. Like, there's all of these different characters coming back, and it's just like, okay, how many more can you bring in before you're creating a screenplay that may not work, may not have all these loose ends? So it's very interesting seeing more come out of Jurassic World 3.
I agree. But at the same time, if you take the 30,000-foot view and the money that the company just spent on, parks and resorts for the redo on the lower lot of the Jurassic Park, the ride, to become the Jurassic World attraction. Likewise, if you just look across Islands Adventure Lagoon at what's being built out in front of the Jurassic Park Discovery Center. I mean, the Velocicoaster, we think that's the name. They trademarked it.
They did trademark it.
But remember when you and I talked about, that's supposed to be the attraction for the summer of 2020. And anybody who's looking at how the construction is proceeding right now, it's less and less likely that thing's going to be ready by next summer or next year even, which, given the operational issues that have dogged Hagrid's Magical Creatures motorbike adventure during its first summer of operation. By the way, did you hear about the bees?
I heard about the bees. We were very concerned for the bees, as everyone is. But it was as a theme park fan, I was giving Universal their due for making sure that everyone was safe, because the last thing you want to do is having so many people go through an attraction where possibly they could get stung, and there are people who have serious allergies, and there's also a level of I think protectiveness. I think honeybees and bees in Florida have a certain protection level that they can't just go in with an exterminator and be like, bye. So they had to do something to, make sure that the bees were safe and such. But it must have been very frustrating for guests who bought a day ticket or, traveling down there on a vacation and then realizing, I can't ride something that we've seen everyone say this is the best coaster at Universal, and to be thwarted by bees.
At least when it comes to Islands Adventure's next thrill ride, the mantra for that theme park's management team right now is, at least when it comes to the Velocicoaster, is, look, there's no need to rush. Let's just get it right this time, okay? Right now, if you're watching construction, which hopefully we'll get to do when we're down there next month, focus right now is on foundation work, making sure that all of the necessary retaining walls are in the right places, and because they want to have the best possible show for guests who are in the park while construction is going on, to keep construction debris from getting out into Island Adventure Lagoon. They've actually set up a line of buoys just offshore from the Jurassic Park Discovery Center. Getting back to Jurassic Park 3.
Oh, Jurassic World 3.
Excuse me, Jurassic World 3, my mistake.
Jurassic Park 3 was one of my favorite movies. No, I'm joking. I couldn't even say that with a straight face.
Oh, come on. It was directed by Joe Johnston. The guy made The Rocketeer. Don't say bad things about Joe Johnston. So, again, I've been hearing this out of California. The folks at Universal Pictures are supposedly kicking the tires of the idea of holding the press event world premiere of Jurassic World 3 at the Universal Orlando Resort, with the idea as part of these festivities, the celebrities we mentioned earlier, B.D. Wong, the kids coming back, the whole schmear, as well as the members of the press who are covering the premiere, would be among the first to get to experience the Velocicoaster. But again, as I just bobbled the name here, is one teeny tiny problem with this plan. The movie that Universal Pictures is releasing in June of 2021 is called Jurassic World 3. And Universal's Island Adventure currently has a Jurassic Park, which is why the studio's PR team has reportedly asked if it might be possible to retheme this part of that theme park to Jurassic World before late May, early June of 2021. After the summer that Islands had just had, with Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure being down for hours, sometimes days. The operations team at Island supposedly has turned to the PR team at Universal Pictures and said, we're going to consider ourselves lucky if the Velocicoaster is actually up and running without any operational hiccups by June of 2021. So let's not bite off more than we can chew here, get out ahead of ourselves by also trying to transform Jurassic Park into Jurassic World in this exact same window of time. But that said, NBC Universal is one giant corporation. And as we talked about on the last show with the Battle at Big Rock and Camp Cretaceous and the Jurassic Park Arena show, Jurassic World Arena show, this is a giant IP for the company. They may just lean on the folks at Islands to the effect of, look, this has to be done, especially if we're looking to do this press event world premiere here. So, and also, let's not forget that this 2021 is when Walt Disney World is going to be celebrating its 50th anniversary. And anything that shifts the spotlight in Central Florida away from the mouse during that year, as far as Universal management is concerned, would be a good thing.
Yeah, and it's good that they're thinking this far out, but I think we're all kind of remembering how the PR side of the theme parks are very good at their jobs, but we're looking at a situation where we just don't know what happens in theme parks for construction. Like going back to Test Track and dealing with how there are many different situations that come up, from, hurricanes to just flat out, material shortage. We're also looking at the possibility of, yes, having Jurassic World and having this coaster be up and running, that's perfectly fine. But we're at that point 2 years out, because if 2021 is a year and a half from now, and then you have another 2 years after that, that's when Epic Universe is supposed to be coming online. So there's a lot of what ifs.
Remember that the last we heard about Epic Universe, they're now saying
2024.
One of the things that the Universal Orlando Resort keeps very close to its heart is what happened with Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket back in 2009. I mean, you and I have talked at length about that previously, about that thing was supposed to be open for Memorial Day, and they barely got it open by, the tail end of August. And they had built that year's entire promotional campaign around that. So there's a certain level of hesitancy to, just when you're dealing with coasters. And as we just learned this past summer with Hagrid.
When you put a date on something, it's always very difficult to stick to it. Mm-hmm. And we also saw that on the other coast with Jurassic World, the ride. Mm-hmm. They didn't actually announce an opening date. They just went out and said, it's open. Mm-hmm. Like it was a tweet that went out. So Instagram put out and they were just like, oh, it's open. And everyone was just like, no, but we were just doing soft opens. Mm-hmm. We thought you were going to tell us, an opening date so we could be there on that specific day. And it just was just like, nope, we're open. So it's two different ways.
Yeah. And in much the same way as what happened with Galaxy's Edge, that Disney just felt compelled eventually to reveal that it would be opening, on August 29th because people were postponing their trips to Orlando. It's like, I want to go when that's go. And now, especially with NBC Universal making Jurassic World such a in the front window, front of mind proposition, lots and lots and lots of pressure to, deliver the goods there. But again, you can't fault them for trying new ideas. And speaking of which, you once again were digging down into the patents and found something interesting Universal related.
Yeah, so we've got Universal All Access. Once again, I love finding these little tidbits. It looks like it was, actually in the same realm as, Universal Monsters and Minions: The Rise of Gru. So it looks like this trademark is more focused around the video digital side versus in the parks. So this was a very interesting thing. And when I flipped it over to you, I think we both kind of had the same response, which is, yeah, but Disney Plus. So is it the same?
In the description for this copyright, it talks about computerized online ordering featuring digital media, namely pre-recorded digital video recordings featuring motion pictures, television shows, and entertainment programs. And the fact that they copywrote this on, the 15th of this month?
Well, it was filed Sunday, June 6th of this year.
Okay. Disney Plus launches on November 12th. And I'm sorry, with Disney launching its new subscription streaming service, the fact that NBC Universal is also sliding something like this out the door genuinely intrigues me. I mean, the timing is just a little suspect. And speaking of timing, time's up for that contest that Dustin and I were holding out ahead of our Christmas and Universal event, which is being held at the Universal Orlando Resort from Friday, November 15th through Monday, November 18th. We had over 270 people enter this contest, which...
Oh, wow.
Yep. Ended on October 15th. And Nancy, God love her, then used a random number generator to pick a lucky winner. So there was no prejudice going into this. And we since reached out to this winner who was thrilled and said that they will definitely be joining us, Dustin, in Florida next month. Can't reveal their name just yet because they still have to sign and return all the necessary forms. So, gotta love lawyers.
Actually, I love lawyers as much as the first Jurassic Park. Remember when the lawyer gets scooped up? Good times. Yeah. Good times.
Okay. Well, but anyway, I promise, folks, by the next time Dustin and I record a brand new Universal joint, we'll be able to reveal the name of our lucky contest winner. Speaking of Christmas and Universal, early this week, the Universal Orlando Resort revealed that Mannheim Steamroller, which is supposedly the best-selling holiday artist of all time, will be performing at Universal Studios Florida this holiday season.
Did you find that on Wikipedia? Because I don't know, there are some solid holiday artists. I think anytime Justin Bieber or NSYNC put out a new holiday album, I'm like, oh, this is really good. It's the best-selling ever. No? Okay, well, I tried.
Okay. Concert dates for Mannheim Steamroller this year are all on Saturdays and Sundays. They include
Yep.
November 16th and 17th, November 23rd and 24th, November 30th and December 1st, December 7th and 8th, and the last set of concerts are going to be held on December 14th and 15th. In fact, Mannheim Steamroller will be playing at Universal Studios Florida on the exact same weekend that you and I are going to be holding our Christmas and Universal event. Thanks to the folks at Storybook Destinations for making that happen. You can get details about the event at the Storybook Destination website. But not to be a Grinch or anything, but I have to admit, I'm not exactly a fan of Mannheim Steamroller. I mean, look, I get the obvious artistry that goes into what they describe as their 18th century classic rock renditions of the Christmas standards, but I'm an old fart. All right, if I had my druthers, my favorite holiday day tunes are usually performed by Perry Como, Rosemary Clooney, Bing Crosby, but to each their own, I guess. I mean, there were those who like cold butterbeer, there are those who like frozen butterbeer or butterbeer ice cream. There are even those who like hot butterbeer, which, by the way, the Universal Orlando Resort began serving again earlier this week. I just checked. It's going to be 88 degrees there tomorrow, Dustin, and nothing quenches the thirst like a piping hot mug of type 2 diabetes.
We made that joke with blue milk
Okay.
and green milk over in Star Wars because the one thing that quenches your thirst during the summertime is milk.
Yeah.
So I'm always a big fan of these ideas of like, oh, we're going to reintroduce this. Yeah, I get it. In the real world, it's cold, it's going to snow, that kind of thing. But in Florida, the last thing that you want is something hot.
But on the other hand, if you're a Floridian, my pal Seth Grabisky loves this stuff. I mean, when it was introduced, he could not say enough nice things about hot butterbeer, which reminds me I really have to go change the batteries on a glucose meter. Okay, so let's pause here for a moment here, Dustin. When we get back from this brief commercial break, you and I will discuss the latest news in regard to Universal Studios Beijing.
Introducing Meta Ray-Ban Display, the world's most advanced AI glasses. With a full color display built into the lens of the glasses, it's there when you need it and gone when you don't. Send and receive messages, translate or caption live conversations, collaborate with Meta AI, and more. Be one of the first to try Meta Ray-Ban Display. Visit meta.com/Meta Ray-Ban Display to book a demo and find your pair.
This episode is brought to you by Paramount Plus. Paramount Plus has movies. So many movies. The movies you've seen 1,000 times and could watch 1,000 more. Iconic movies your friends can't believe you haven't seen. New movies, classic movies, new takes on classic movies. So whether you're into Top Gun or The Naked Gun, Mean Girls or Mission Impossible, Smurfs or Sonic the Hedgehog, there's a mountain of movies to discover on Paramount Plus. Start streaming today.
Before we get started here, Dustin, you wanted to give us an update on the Epic Character Race Weekend?
Yeah, so it looks like early registration is now open for Running Universal's inaugural Epic Character Race, which is a 5K and a 10K. It's a full weekend, so February 1st and 2nd of 2020 at Universal Orlando Resort. Check out the Running Universal website for this information, and for anyone who loves running, have fun. I think I can speak for you, Jim. We're not running unless something is chasing us. So enjoy.
I've always suggested that if someone was willing to drag a box of donuts in front of me, I might move quickly. But again, that was pre-diabetes. Well, anyway, speaking of Epic, I want to give a brief shout out to Alicia Stella, who honestly, Alicia has to have access to some sort of network of tunnels that come up in the middle of Universal Creative's offices. Did you see the images she put up on Twitter earlier this week that showed the version of the Secret Life of Pets off the leash ride, the one that's under construction at Universal Studios Hollywood right now?
Yeah, it looks awesome. And I personally have to say Alicia is doing some great work with the sleuthing out there. I think As a Universal Orlando and Universal Studios theme park fan, Alicia is definitely one of those Twitter accounts and Instagram accounts you have to pay attention to.
But she's got to be making Universal Creative
absolutely
crazy. I mean, especially, for example, this week, she had images up from when this family-friendly dark ride was supposed to have been featured trackless vehicles. And the version of this attraction that's now being built on the upper lot at Universal Studios Hollywood features an Omnimover-based ride system. So why did Universal Creative abandon the idea of using a trackless ride system for a Hollywood Secret Life of Pet Off the Leash ride? Out ahead of the June 2019 release of this Illuminations Entertainment film, a Universal Creative exec saw a work in progress of this animated feature, and then decided it just wasn't as good as the original A Secret Life of Pets, which was released to theaters back in July of 2016, which to their way of thinking meant that The Secret Life of Pets wasn't going to do nearly as well as the box office as the original Secret Life of Pets had. So this executive decides to make an adjustment to the overall construction budget for Universal Studios Hollywood's Secret Life of Pet Off the Leash attraction, which meant that this, it just wasn't possible for this family-friendly dark ride to be built using a trackless ride system. So they defaulted to going with an Omnimover-based system. And this Universal Creative executive was correct. Original Secret Life of Pets, which was produced for a budget $75 million, sold $360 million worth of tickets in North America, an additional 507 million tickets overseas, worldwide total gross of $875 million.
Okay,
now contrast that with how Secret Life of Pets did just this past summer. When that Illuminations Entertainment film, well, first of all, it cost $80 million, $5 million more than the original film in the series.
Sure.
Secret Life of Pets in North America only sold 158 million worth of tickets. That's 210 million less than the original film. And then overseas, almost as bad. Secret Life of Pets 2 only sold 271 worth of tickets. That's $230 million less than the original Secret Life of Pets earned back in 2016. So if you factor that in, you do the worldwide gross of Secret Life of Pets was just $429 million. And again, I would happily accept just $429 million. But that was less than half the business the original Secret Life of Pets did back in 2016. The box office shortfall fall off of $446 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
But here's the question that, like, when you see those numbers, what went wrong?
The original Secret Life of Pets was released in July. The Secret Life Pets was released in June. Depending on who you talk to, so it's, well, the kids weren't out of school, and it's like, really? It's competition that was still when Endgame was eating, sucking the oxygen out of, depending on who you talk to, there's a lot of theories out there. But, the folks at Illuminations who were already, as they were finishing 2, were teeing up 3, kind of hit the pause button there because pause on a dog. Hey, but anyway, very good call on the Universal Creative Executive's part to creep in the construction budget. Theme park design is kind of an inexact science, which is why even after you do all sorts of surveys and focus groups, sometimes you just have to go with your gut, or more to the point, what the client tells you they want. By the way, brings us to the Universal Beijing project. October 13th, 2014, the Universal Studios Beijing project gets announced. By October 31st of 2016, ground is broken on this $3 billion resort, the 7th Universal theme park worldwide and the 3rd to be built in Asia. Given that Universal Parks and Resorts is partnering with BSH Investment, which is actually a consortium of 4 Chinese state-owned companies on this $3 billion project. Well, BSNH wasn't looking to reinvent the wheel here, at least when it came to Universal Studios Beijing. When it came to phase 1 of this theme park and resort, what BSNH Investment wanted was to only go with road-tested IPs, ride shows and attractions that had already proved themselves to be popular with visitors to the other Universal theme parks around the globe. which is why just this week on October 12th, 2019, as Universal Studios Beijing revealed the names of the 7 theme zones to be featured in this 130-acre theme park, which just makes up a portion of this 990-acre resort, a lot of the names that got thrown out there were very, very familiar. I couldn't help but think when I was looking at that video they put out and they walked us through the park, what immediately came to mind was, remember that parade, the Universal Spectacle Night Parade, the Best of Hollywood?
Yep.
Which debuted at Universal Studios Japan back in May of last year. Every single unit in this parade is tied to just 4 IPs.
Yep.
You got Despicable Me Minions, you got Jurassic World, you got Harry Potter, and you got Transformers. So this is all about road-tested IPs. So if you pivot to Universal Studios Beijing, 4 of the 7 theme zones announced for that theme park were tied to the exact same IPs. BS&H Investment isn't interested in risk. They want sure things. Ride shows and attractions that have already been proven to be popular in Orlando, Osaka, Singapore, and Hollywood when it comes to Universal Studios Beijing. That's why, for example, the theme park entrance complex retail corridor portion of this park, Universal Creative went with a Hollywood theme, which has been part of the Universal theme park experience back since July of '64. That was when tourists vacationing in Southern California could finally officially buy tickets to the Universal Tour, climb on the Glamour Tram and roll around the back lot and hope that Fred Gwynn would come wandering out in his Herman Munster makeup.
Which, funny that you bring up the tram. Did you see the trams for the backlot tour are actually being retrofitted to become electric vehicles?
Oh, no, I did not see that.
We'll tease that for the next show, but when we were talking about that, I'm like, hey, this is coming.
No. Okay, let's definitely circle back on that one. But at the same time, okay, so you got your Hollywood theme. If you look at many of the shops, stores, and restaurants that are supposed to be featured in Universal Beijing, things like Mel's Diner, that's taking its inspiration from Universal Studios Florida, which actually opened back in June of 1990. I mean, it kind of reminds me of the stories that Disney told about the Oriental Land Company executives who, when Disney was first proposing building a park for Tokyo Bay, well, let's do something different. And the Oriental Land executives literally walked through Walt Disney World and Disneyland and said, okay, we want Disney World's castle and we want Disneyland's Pirates of the Caribbean, and it's not a buffet.
They went out there and they found like the like a scholastic book order where you go through and you're like, okay, I want one of these, I want one of these, I want that, but can we retrofit it with a different IP? Because that's something that we're seeing with the announced news, right? Like there were things that were announced that had a very distinct look to them.
For example, Waterworld. All right, that's a stunt show. It's literally called Waterworld, a live sea war spectacular. That opened in October of '95 at Universal Studios Hollywood. It was so popular with international guests, not so much the folks in Southern California, but international guests loved it, that when they built Universal Studios Japan, when that park opened in May of 2001, they built a Waterworld stunt show as part of that theme park as well. And let's not forget when we were talking about the Universal Dubai, that they too, were supposed to have a water world. And then Singapore, which opened in March of 2010, we now get our third version of Waterworld. Back in April of 2017, they actually refreshed the Hollywood version, and the changes that were then made to the Hollywood version were incorporated into
the Japan one back in June of 2018.
There we go. All right, they're talking about Waterworld Land. Okay.
Sure.
Now, the stunt show in California and Singapore and Osaka is 16 minutes long. And yeah, there's the movie. There's a 135-minute long movie that went on to theaters in 1995. There's also the version that ran on ABC that was 40 minutes long. And There's the Blu-ray that came out in February of this year, Dustin, that's nearly 3 hours long.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. But 90% of that movie is set on water. And it's just sort of like, this is Beijing, where it gets down from December through February. It gets down into the 30s. In fact, it sometimes does, in fact, snow. They don't call them splash zones at the show. They call them soak zones. Who's going to sit in the stands to watch this? If they're going to do the Stuntacular in December, January, or February.
It's why no one goes on the water rides at Islands of Adventure during the cold season, or they have to turn off the extra soak, the mechanisms that as you're turning around the corner on Dudley Do Rides, you could pay to
That's right.
spray people. It actually makes sense why most of the water attractions go down for refurbishment, because it's like, why would we have them operating if they're only going to be running at 10% occupancy?
That's an excellent observation. Pivoting to another, taking at something that's just an attraction and making it a land, we have Minion Land, which of course keys off of the original Despicable Me film. And it was less than 2 years later, Despicable Me Minion Mayhem opens at Universal Studios Florida. But we also got a Super Silly Funland park right off of the exit and gift shop for Despicable Me Minion Mayhem. Minions, the movie, comes out the following year, and the Minions standalone film is the highest grossing film out of the franchise so far. It made $1.15 billion worldwide.
That's incredible.
It is. And so knowing this and knowing particularly, the thing is, the overseas business, and of that $1.15 billion, $823 million of that was overseas. So it's really no surprise that come April of 2017, we not only get Despicable Me Minion Mayhem added to Universal Studios Japan, they get an entirely new land. It's not just sort of gift shop and Super Silly Funland. They did what they call Minion Park. And to create the space for this, Dustin, they actually tore out Back to the Future, the ride. One of my favorites. And don't get me wrong, I love The Simpsons, but still kind of breaks my heart that I can't go visit Doc Brown.
Well, Doc Brown still does his meet and greets every once in a while.
He does. He
has his train. But yeah, I think that's always a funny thing. And as soon as I saw the concept art for the Minion Land, first thing that came to my mind, and I said it out loud, I'm like, that's The Simpsons. When you actually look at it, the entranceway, if you take Krusty for the Midway and everything that they have out there, take it out and replace it with a minion. That's basically what this the concept art screamed to me, which kind of makes sense because the whole Fox acquisition of The Simpsons and Minions and Despicable Me, that's kind of an in-house thing at this point.
Well, again, the circle back on the whole NBC Universal are our IPs, which brings us to the last new land, the Kung Fu Panda Land of Awesomeness. We got the first Kung Fu Panda movie back in June of 2008. Sequels followed in May of 2011 and January of 2016. Come April of that same year, NBC Universal buys DreamWorks Animation for $3.8 billion. Not a coincidence. The Universal Parks planning this third park in Asia, that they felt that they really needed to step up, especially when it came to the Lunar New Year. So, for example, February of 2018, the upper lot at Universal Studios Hollywood becomes this huge, elaborate celebration for the Lunar New Year. And one of the things they did that was absolutely spectacular, in fact, you can go online and still find YouTube things for this, is they set up Mr. Ping's Noodle Shop. And what was truly cool about this is that, and I want to say it's the folks at Henson that built the Mr. Ping puppet
Yeah, I remember us talking about that.
Yeah,
It was one of those things where we're just like, oh, that was a great partnership deal.
no, absolutely. And they did such a great job. You know, and again, it was only supposed to run in February, but it got such a big reaction from guests visiting the park. They actually brought the noodle shop back in the summer of 2018, something that you discover as you wandered the upper lot. Now, mind you, during that very same period, we had the DreamWorks Theater open in the upper lot, which was the replacement for the Shrek 4D, and it opened with a brand new animated film, Kung Fu Panda: The Emperor's Quest. And as it's been explained to me, one of the two key elements of Land of Awesomeness that's being opened in Universal Studios Beijing, they're definitely doing the Emperor's Quest 4D movie. There will be a Mr. Ping's Noodle Shop experience. Also, will be a Poe and Tigress set of walk-around characters.
Yeah. I'm seeing that there's going to be things like Jade Palace, the Panda Village, and the Peach Tree of Heavenly Wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
They're really going to step up the food game. It looks like they're going to create this environment, once again, an immersive environment for this film that everyone, I kind of stopped myself, everyone loves. They really enjoy it, but they like going back and seeing what these characters are up to.
When the first film came out in June of 2008, Jeffrey Katzenberg, the then head of DreamWorks Animation, talked about how the Kung Fu Panda story he originally envisioned as a 6-film series.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have the folks at Illuminations, the gentleman who's in charge of that studio, who's also kind of the John Lasseter role, is calling the shots also at DreamWorks Animation. And my understanding, I know they're doing a Shrek reboot. I have not heard whether or not, we're going to get a 4th Kung Fu Panda film.
Well, and Jack Black is such an iconic voice for this franchise. And, at the end of the day, it's easier to do a animated voice than it is to do a live action voice. So I could see them really kind of pushing through the idea that maybe it is just Jack's show and they'll bring in new supporting characters. But when all of this information came out with regards to Universal Studios Beijing, it's very, like, when you look at it, it is Universal Studios. There is Jurassic World, there's Waterworld, there's a bunch of things that are in this, the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. All of these things are basically a Universal Studios fan getaway. You'll be able to go and do butterbeer at this park. You're going to be able to do everything that you can imagine, and it'll feel like you're at a stateside park.
But they leaned very heavily on proven IP, road-tested ride shows and attraction. But the other news that broke this week about how the truly innovative aspect of Universal Studios Beijing, it was their announcement of a strategic partnership with Alibaba. This will be controversial with a number of folks, but what will make this park different from any other Universal park in the world is the fact that they're going to make use of Alibaba's facial recognition technology. You can use it to enter the park, to access a locker. If you're paid for the Express, Universal Express program, that'll get you there. Use your face to pay for merchandise and meals. And not only that, for folks who are uncomfortable with that, there will be an Alibaba app that will also allow people to skip lines and order food. And how long ago did Disney institute MagicBands at the parks?
Do you want a little bit of a Wayback Machine? So it looks like the bands were introduced on January 7th, 2013 by Tom Staggs as part of My Disney or My Magic Plus. So, whatever happened to Tom Staggs?
It wasn't all that long ago that Tom was supposedly being considered as the new head of CBS, largely because he was so squeaky clean and had such a great reputation coming out of Disney that they were kind of hoping he'd be the perfect replacement for Les Moonves. I don't know what happened there. To be honest, there's been that protracted fight with the board and Sherry Redstone. I wonder once the dust settles whether they'll pivot back to Tom. But no, he's he walked away from Disney with a stellar reputation, just waiting for the right opportunity.
Well, all about opportunities. That's what it's all about. And I think that one of the things that this announcement was basically giving a whole new opportunity to Universal Studios Beijing to succeed from the get-go and then work on phase 2, right?
Well, yeah, and that's the thing that intrigues me when I think about it. You can go right now online and look at photos coming out of Osaka at the Nintendo Land that's being built at Universal Studios Japan.
Mhm.
Or if you stand in the right place at Universal Studios Hollywood, you can supposedly look down at the yet to be officially announced Nintendo attractions that are being built out behind Universal's Jurassic World ride, on the lower lawn.
It's going 3 stories up now.
Oof.
Like they've now gone vertical, and it's one of those things that Universal versus Disney. Disney announces, and Universal is just like, no, there's nothing to see here.
La la la, don't pay attention. BSH Investments had to have the opportunity to get on the ground floor in a Nintendo. And they said no. They wanted to play it safe with phase 1. They go safe with all of their ride shows and attractions, and yet, think about it, this facial recognition system to pay for food, pay for merch, how cutting edge that is. That's where they decided to roll the dice. They just, we'll play it safe with everything else, but that. Oh, anyway, folks, we could go on for hours about this. More to the point, if, when it comes time for the event in November, Dustin and I will probably talk at length about, for example, as you walk around Universal Studios Florida, what chunks of that are going to show up at Universal Studios Beijing. Speaking of which, Dustin, you want to give folks a quick rundown of what the event in November is actually about?
Once again, always fun time to think about what to do in November. If you are interested in coming out for the Universal Joint Live podcast event, this is basically what's going on. We've got November 15th, we're doing dinners and doing a resort holiday decoration tour. November 16th, the Saturday, that is basically Universal Studios Florida Day, where we're doing a tour in the morning. Then we're doing the Universal's Hollywood Parade featuring Macy's, and then an evening cinematic celebration dessert party. Sunday, we are doing an Islands of Adventure Day, where it's a historic walk around that park in the morning, and then the Grinchmas Hula Day Spectacular, followed by a live recording of this show at the Lowe's Sapphire Falls Resort, followed by the Magic of Christmas at Hogwarts Castle, and then my favorite part, ending the event with a morning meetup at Voodoo Donuts. Just, you can't go wrong with ending an awesome event with donuts.
Now you're making me think about Tim Hortons.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was actually there earlier today. It's, I think Voodoo Donuts have them beat.
Well, okay. By the way, folks, the deadline for registering for this event is November 1st. And from what the folks at Storybook Destination have been telling me, reservations are going fast. In fact, as of today, there's only a few rooms, fewer than 5, I think. So if you want to get on the fun, join Dustin and I at the Universal Orlando Resort for the start of this year's holiday season. I'd reach out to Storybook Destinations ASAP. We'll have lots of great stories to share as we wander around Universal Studios Florida and Islands of Adventure, but if our listeners just can't wait till November 15th to start hearing tales like that, Dustin, where else can they find you on the web?
So I'm over at stepstomagic.com, Disney and Universal trip planning, top 10 lists. I still tell people I talk about cupcakes for a living. It's great fun. I'm also on the We Like Theme Parks podcast, basically 3 guys getting together talking about how much we like theme parks. And yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to this event in November. So if anyone really does want to get this, be surrounded, not just with Jim and myself, but also people who are really into Universal, you can't go wrong with joining us November 15th through until the 18th.
On the JHM side, what do we got? We got Disney Dish with Len Testa. We got Fine Tuning with Drew Taylor. We got Looking at Lucasfilm with Dan Zaire. We got the Marvelous Disney Podcast, which I do with Aaron Adams. And we have The I Want That podcast, and Michelle Valladolid is down at Walt Disney World, walking through every store, noting all of the cool stuff that's there for Flower and Garden and Mickey's Not So Scary and the like. I'll tell you what, if you like what you hear here and you want to be supportive, do myself and Dustin a favor. To head over to iTunes and rate and recommend our shows, including the ones that Dustin mentioned earlier. On the other hand, if you really, really, really like what we do here, if you could subscribe to Bandcamp, that would be incredibly helpful. Thank you for listening. We'll talk again soon.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. It's Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and LifeLock has tips to protect your identity. Use strong passwords, set up multi-factor authentication, report phishing, and update the software on your devices. And for comprehensive identity protection, let LifeLock alert you to suspicious uses of your personal information. LifeLock also fixes identity theft, guaranteed or your money back. Stay smart, safe, and protected with a 30-day free trial at LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.